Hi everybody, it's Rabbi Slomovitz from the Jewish Christian Discovery Center, and I'm so glad we have a few moments to spend together today. And today's actually a very interesting and I think important conversation that we're going to have. In my book, A New Look at Rabbi Jesus, Jews and Christians Finally Reconnected, I make a number of points, and one is particularly important, and that is that when we look at the Bible, it's important what the Bible says, but it's even more important how we interpret what that verse is. And I put a lot of emphasis on the clergy. The clergy have the responsibility of taking the verses and telling you what they mean. So I have an example here that I'll read to you from the Christian scriptures. First, let me start with the Jewish scriptures. It's all in my book. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. As you know, in the book of Exodus, it says, an eye for an eye, a tooth for tooth, foot for foot. It goes on, and making the point again and again and again that if somebody harms you, you should harm them back, retribution. But immediately, upon studying what the rabbis say about the verses, they say that's not really the case. We don't want to live in a world where if somebody bumps you, you say, okay, I'm going to bump them now. Or somebody cuts you off in traffic, you cut them off. So what the rabbi said was, in their interpretation of those verses, that you compensate somebody. If somebody has pain and suffering because of that injury, that you recognize that and show them that they've been hurt. But what you don't do is this exact revenge. So even though it says eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, the rabbis would say it doesn't mean that. So now let me read to you something from the book of John you're all familiar with. This is John 3:16. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Now that's well known, and some people have memorized it. And then what I suggest is that we continue reading. Same chapter, just continue reading. He who believes in him is not condemned, but who does not believe is condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. And this is the condemnation, that the light has come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because of their deeds were evil. And it goes on a few more verses. So here's what it says. If you don't believe, you're condemned. If you don't believe, you're living in darkness. If you don't believe, you're evil. And what I think we all need to do is take these verses and talk about them from the perspective of the clergy and from the perspective of the congregation. Is this what we believe about the other, whomever they are? Do we want to say to people whose beliefs are different, well, you're condemned, or you're evil, or you live in darkness? And I just offer those questions to say that I think that it's our responsibility to wrestle with these verses a little bit and come up with some explanations. Easily, you could talk about it as hyperbole, which the Bible uses a lot, just talks in sort of extremisms. They were trying to make a point. But I think, though, that it's our responsibility to take these verses and say, okay, well, we don't mean exactly that. We don't want to look at people who don't believe exactly like we do. They may be Christian too. But as we know, there's hundreds of types of Christian beliefs in the world. Do we want to say that about the other, whomever they are, that they're evil and condemned and live in darkness? I don't think so. Listen, there's good people around the world that bring light to the world of all faiths. Sometimes there's no faith, but they do good things. So I don't think we want to be so overly connected to these verses without giving it critical thought and analysis and commentary. So just something to think about. But when I do speak to groups, I bring this up. And I think at the end of the day, what we have to say is, here's my faith. I believe in it 100%. But I also give other people that same privilege of having their faith 100%. And even though we may not be exactly the same, if we look for the commonalities rather than the differences, then we'd find that we have a lot more in common and a lot more similar in terms of beliefs and practices than we normally think about. I certainly, as a rabbi, would never condemn anybody else for their beliefs. If you're a kind, gentle, caring person, you're good with me. So, at any rate, I hope I've given you something to think about. Again, I'm Rabbi Slomovitz from the Jewish Christian Discovery Center. You can Google us, and if you want to communicate with me, start out with the Jewish Christian Discovery Center. You'll find my email, and we'll go from there. So I'll be speaking with you soon. Bye-bye for now.